Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you, this time talking episode 21 of season 3 of Arrow called Al-Sahhim. And again, man, this is another really good episode of this series. It's definitely doing a lot of cool stuff happens, and it really helps set the stage for what I'm guessing is going to be an absolutely epic season finale over the course of the next two episodes. So let's just kind of get right into things. I gotta say, this is another one of those episodes where before I did the review, I kind of went out and, like I often do, and sort of looked at some other people's reaction to all of this. And once again, Tumblr proves to be a haven for some of the most idiotic people to ever sit in front of a keyboard. And TV Tropes has introduced this thing called the wall bangers, and they had stuff like this on there before. But I was just reading through some of the complaints people had, and it's just like, oh man, I swear to God, you know that thing on The Simpsons where Homer goes, it's I think when he decides to stop going to church, he's laying on the couch and he goes, "Everybody is stupid but me." This is how I feel when I read stuff on Tumblr and that TV Tropes section. Not that I'm ever not beyond ever saying anything stupid. Okay, if you've ever spent like an hour around me in real life, you would see plenty of evidence of that. But all the time I've spent doing reviews of this show and all the others and the movies and things like that, I like to think that I've learned a little bit about how to properly do proper criticism of shows like this, and how storytelling works. I didn't do a bunch of bullshit like take a film studies class, or God help me, actually take a literature class in college. Literature professors are the only professors I hate more than sociology professors. And if you've been around here for a while, you know I fucking hate sociology professors. Hate them. So, with that said, before I get into it, I want to point out a few things about some of these brands that I saw people going on. Okay, the first one was the whole big thing with like Ra's al Ghul going like, "Nyssa, you have to marry Oliver." All right, like there's somebody I said who was like, it isn't, if somebody was saying to this person, like, this person had posted this angry rant, and they responded on their Tumblr like, you know, "I get that Ra's al Ghul is a bad guy. The problem is the writers and the producers okayed this." Okay, look, nobody, I mean, were you even watching that scene? Nobody is presenting the idea of what Raz is trying to do, Ra's al Ghul is trying to do with Nyssa, as a good thing. Nyssa is mad as hell, and points to Stephen Amell for his performance in that scene, because just the subtle shift in his body language and his eyes totally show us that even though he's brainwashed as all hell, Oliver does not like this idea one bit either. So the idea that somehow the producers and writers on this show, and let's keep in mind, a good number of people behind the scenes on Arrow are indeed women. I mean, I think like something like 1/3 of the episodes in like season 1 alone were written totally or completely by women. All right. I don't think anybody in this show is saying, yeah, we should that it's cool to basically force women into marriages that they don't want to be in, especially when their sexual orientation does not lead them in the direction of wanting to sleep with guys. I mean, do you honestly think anybody in the behind the scenes at Arrow, in the producers room, the producers, the writers, any of the actual people who are helping to make the show a reality, including this fellow you may have heard of named John Barrowman, who is openly homosexual and has been for many years, are saying that this is cool? This is like saying that the producers and writers of Hannibal are totally cool with murder and cannibalism. And I know, my longtime viewers, that I have ranted about this before, but this annoys the ever-loving shit out of me, and is just a perfect example of me of what is wrong with people today, especially stupid-ass college kids, and even worse, the teenagers, who are growing up, seeing all this crap on Tumblr. Me, I'm old. I sort of remember what it was like to grow up before the internet was everywhere. Okay, the internet didn't even really become a big thing until I was a teenager. I mean, I didn't even start really using the internet on a regular basis until I was a freshman in college. That's yeah, I'm old. I'm old. That said, this is ridiculous. I mean, this is utterly ridiculous. I mean, if you're going along those lines, you may have seen it's written saying that anybody who's ever written, and I hate to go here, that depicts Nazis doing Nazi stuff is endorsing the ideas of the Nazis. And yeah, again, I know the Nazis are, uh, what's that one? Godwin's Law. Yeah, Godwin's Law. Okay? But here I think it's actually a relevant comparison. Depiction is not an endorsement. Okay? I mean, you might as well, if you're going to continue with it, just to bring that back to Arrow, to say that the writers and producers on the show endorse mass murder. Because, hey, look what Malcolm Merlyn did at the end of Season 1. He killed over 500 people. Oh, the guys working for Slade Wilson at the end of Season 2, they killed God only knows how many people. This episode, we see the bioweapon killing God only knows how many people in Hong Kong. You think the writers and producers of Arrow endorse bioterrorism? Fucking idiots. So, how was your day? My day was actually pretty good. Seriously, no, my day actually was generally good. It's just when I think about these things and just try and live in a world with people like this, it annoys the ever-loving hell out of me. Because as I've mentioned more than once in my videos, my great curse in life is that I want people to make sense. And as we all know, we're all on the internet here where people don't make a goddamn bit of sense. Alright, so I've been ranting for the better part of 7 minutes, so I'm going to stop here and just kind of get into what's actually going on in this episode. So, having said that, basically, if you use Tumblr, you're an idiot and an evil person, and that I hate you, let us continue. No, I don't. I don't hate everyone on Tumblr. I seriously don't. There are some nice people there. Just don't use Tumblr to learn about social issues, kids. Use, books. Anyway, so this episode we sort of see Team Arrow trying to once again move on without Oliver around, and this time they at least know that Oliver is alive, and there's horror at what's happened, but a certain amount of resignation that at least what happened was Oliver's choice, and that they're not waiting on some big question mark. Dig handles the whole situation probably about as well as anybody, what with his military background going, gone but never forgotten. A very fitting attitude for somebody like him. And of course, Felicity not taking it well, but also willing to sort of still go out there and try and do what she can for the good fight. And I love how they sort of are ragging on Dig. It was like, hey, you need to kind of get an outfit for when you're out there, and he's all like, no, man, no costumes. And I totally think that Dig should not have a costume. Just get the guy something better than like a bandana or whatever it is that he's been using to kind of cover himself up with. Like get him a helmet, maybe, like SWAT guys wear. That would be pretty cool. Meanwhile, of course, Oliver's back in Nanda Parbat, going through being brainwashed, basically. Because Ra's al Ghul is a dick. And what we see with Oliver, him being kept chained up like that, he's being slipped drugs in his food, and it's sort of implied they're probably depriving him of sufficient sleep. I mean, that's all classic brainwashing techniques. And apparently the League of Assassins does know what they're doing when it comes to brainwashing, because Oliver, he has a few moments where he doesn't exactly pull out all the stops. Especially when he's like trying to take down Nyssa. You can see that there's a little bit of Oliver still in there, kind of keeping himself from going completely over the edge. But it's things aren't looking good. And just the idea that basically Oliver was the villain of this episode. It's Al-Sahhim versus Team Arrow, and Al-Sahhim wins. Ra's al Ghul gets everything he wants, basically. I mean, just I mean, just the whole fact that Oliver kidnapped Lyla. He genuinely was gonna had a sword, and honest to God, might have been about to kill Diggle. I mean, sweet God. I mean, one of the big things this episode was basically, the whole thing about how Oliver, in a lot of ways, saved Diggle. It gave him a purpose. Gave him something that really pulled him back from, the place he was after his brother was murdered. Of course, we've heard many times about just how important Dig is to Oliver. These guys are brothers basically. And then there's Oliver, ready to drive a sword through him. And we see from the hallucination that, yeah, Oliver probably would have done it if Thea hadn't stepped in there. So, man, I mean, that's some pretty intense stuff. And there's the whole thing with Thea actually having to go once again to Malcolm for help. I mean, after what she said to him, I will never think of you as my father, or all that other stuff. And it really seems like she hasn't changed her mind on that. Of course, she has every reason in the world not to. But the fact that, yeah, even she is willing to once again go and get help from Malcolm in order to save Oliver, I mean, that's a tremendous price to pay, emotionally. And this all does lead to Thea coming up in what looks like probably a prototype for a Speedy costume. I mean, it's got the nice long hood and the cape built into it. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if they later end up working in a little bit of yellow to sort of help distinguish her from Roy. Probably in that sort of darker shade of yellow, kind of like the Reverse Flash's costume over on Flash. So yeah, I think by the time we pick up with season 4, Thea will be well on her way to being Speedy pretty darn quick. Let's see, what else do we have to talk about? Man, points to the writers for giving Lyla some cool stuff to do this episode. Lyla's really one of those characters that they never really seem to have had a very good grip on this episode. But here she gets to basically call Oliver on his bullshit, and then whip out the guns and kill some League of Assassins guys. I mean, damn. They really should let Lyla play around with Team Arrow a little bit more. But I guess just kind of the fact that there's a baby on the show, and I guess I tend to assume that when we see both Dig and Lyla, and the baby is not around, that she's with Carly, Dig's ex-sister-in-law. It would really kill them to at least mention Carly again. But yeah, definitely nice to have Lyla having a moment. And let's see, what else? Oh yeah, Laurel. Well, this is a really bizarre situation where Laurel is kind of the voice of moral guidance and one of the more reasonable people in the room. I mean, what a departure from season 1, where we all freaking hated Laurel and thought she was a big stupid pain in the ass. But sad to have Sarah gone, but as many problems as she had, Laurel is making some steps towards getting it right as Black Canary. I mean, actually getting to see the new Canary cry in action was pretty darn cool. And her getting to hang out with Nyssa and just sort of them be gal pals, that was pretty cool. Her thing, like, here, dip your fry in the chocolate in the malt, it's awesome. Kind of reminds me of like my tendency to put soy sauce on French fries. And seriously, if you've never done it, I mean, like, it has to be good soy sauce. Well, actually, it doesn't have to be. My personal favorite soy sauce to use on that is that La Choy stuff. I mean, that's garbage. But oh man, you put that on fries and it's delish. Of course, the good times don't last. Oliver comes to town to kill her, and then Mrs. understandably kind of pissed that Laurel kept some stuff from her. Like Oliver is now the heir to the demon. So this, of course, leads to Oliver and Nyssa having another fight, and I've been keeping track. Nyssa kind of sucks at fighting. First time she fought Oliver, it was basically a draw. Then they had the rematch later in that episode that Oliver won, although it was a pretty close call. Now, since then, including this episode, they fought 2 more times. Both times Oliver won. And then Nyssa also lost a fight to Laurel and Roy. And given that this episode Laurel has trouble handling a mugger, I'm gonna have to hand that one to most of the lion's share of the credit to that one to Roy, with Laurel getting an assist. So this means that Nyssa can't even take down Roy. Yeah, no wonder Roz doesn't want her as his heir. It's not that she's into girls, it's that Oliver's really, really much better at this whole being an uber badass thing than Nyssa is. Oh, and yeah, I also saw, if I could go back to rant mode for a second, somebody also saying, like, it was the idea of them going to Malcolm Merlyn for training in sword fighting to fight Ra's al Ghul is dumb. When, and the point the person that made this said, like, one, Malcolm is trained to fight with a bow and not a sword. Well, that's bullshit. Everybody in the league knows how to do both. All right? We've seen in training with Thea that Malcolm frickin' knows how to use a sword. Oh, and oh yeah, Malcolm, as has been repeatedly said, was Roz's horseman, basically his right-hand guy. Nobody is going to know Roz's fighting style better than Malcolm except maybe Nyssa. And Oliver couldn't exactly go to her for help. And then the same person said, well, why couldn't he go to Tatsu for training into sword fighting? Well, okay, Oliver, if I'm not a little fuzzy on this one, I can't remember if he didn't know that Tatsu was still alive, or when he did see her, he had no idea. It was obvious that he had no idea where this woman was, where she had been. So one, Oliver couldn't have done that because he didn't know where she was. And two, Tatsu does not know Ra's al Ghul's fighting style. Okay, she's got her own fighting style that she could probably teach him. But if you're going to take down a certain individual, you want the person to teach you be someone who is as familiar with that person's fighting style as possible. And that person is Malcolm. Again, short of Nyssa, there was nobody else who was better qualified to teach Oliver how to sword fight. And it's like that episode when they went to Corto Maltese. Roy's all shocked that Oliver knows how to use a gun. And Oliver says, like, look, just because I fight with a bow and arrow doesn't mean I don't know how to use a gun. Well, guess what? Just because Malcolm Merlyn most of the time fights with a bow and arrow doesn't mean that he doesn't know how to use a sword. I mean, never mind the fact that we've actually seen Malcolm Merlyn use a sword, because, oh yeah, he taught Thea how to do that. Everybody is stupid but me. So, yeah. Let me see here. Oh yeah, Hong Kong flashback. Mass murder! Yay! I'm a writer and a producer on Arrow. Like, oh, fucking. Okay, I'm a little unclear. Is this virus airborne, or is this like something people have to be injected with? That's the only thing I really have to say about that. But at least it did a nice job of tying things back to what was going on in the present. And that's kind of one of the big problems this season is what's been going on in Hong Kong hasn't seemed to have had very much to what's going on in Starling City in the present day. So yeah, I'm not digging that. And let me see, what else? No, I think that's about it. Again, all in all, a pretty good episode. And man, if that's okay. I'm going to try and make proper sentences now. What's really interesting this episode is that last episode we kind of got to see the more human side of Ra's al Ghul, where he's sort of basically telling Felicity, it's like, look, if you have feelings for this guy, go now and make sure he knows, because you're never going to see him again. The more sympathetic side of that character. And here, 180. It's like, oh yeah, Ra's al Ghul is a complete and utter bastard. And again, like, what he's trying to do with Nyssa is never for 1 second presented as being okay. The only person who thinks this is okay is Ra's. So seriously, people, chill the fuck out and actually think before you go screaming on the internet. And yeah, okay, I've done my fair share of that here, but at least I've put some thought into what I'm saying here. Seriously. That's all I'm asking, is put some damn thought into what you say. Anyway, I've had enough of this, so I'm going to go and play video games or something until Elementary comes on tonight. So, with that said, guys, as always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. Till next time, take care and have a good